Welcome to Cast Your Bets, the Offshore Gaming Association podcast with your hosts Jim Quinn of OSGA.com and J.R. O'Donnell of Red Zone Sports. Let's get started.
Hello, folks, and welcome to Cast Your Bets, Week 10 of our podcast. We've been bringing it to you since the very first week of football season. My name is Jim from OSGA, here with my good friend J.R. O'Donnell from Red Zone Sports. And, you know, I don't know that J.R.'s having that good a day. J.R., what's going on with you, man?
Well, you know, I'd love to tell you that I'm sitting here high on the horse and sitting here chirping, but you know what? I played two teams last week on the podcast. I pride myself on the winners. And Colorado State decided to not play offense. Wyoming was that good. I laid the points with Colorado State against that black shirt Nebraska defense from Wyoming, and they just couldn't get the job done. I was mad about that game. I laid the points, and it let the listeners down. I also played the Atlanta Falcons with Matty Ice and an offensive coordinator that just not on the same page. Carolina was not going to get the job done in my book, and they got it done. They played defense. They did not turn the ball over. And, you know, I do this for a living. I pride myself on winners, and I've hung up two losers last week, and I'm working harder, digging down deeper, and I'm going to come up with two nice games this week for the listeners.
Well, you know, last week was tough, man. I mean, the sportsbooks, I think, made a lot of money there. You know, a couple of tough losses. Who runs out of the end zone for a safety? You know, I mean, come on. You know, all kinds of stuff going on there, and getting smashed happens. You know, it's a shame that it didn't work out last week, but I'm looking forward to what we have for the show this week. You know, folks can listen to Cast Your Bets out there on iTunes. There's a site called Blueberry, which is a popular podcast site. They can check us out on. We're on YouTube and, of course, over at the OSGA.com website, listening to Jim from OSGA and J.R. O'Donnell breaking down games for you, breaking down some things about how to bet. And this week, we want to talk about betting exotics. You know, betting your teasers, betting your parlays. I know you've mentioned reverses before. I mean, I think that's getting a little off the grid when you start going there. You know, here right down the road, you can go to Delaware and bet their parlay cards. The giant billboard I saw on the way home from the office on I-95 to play parlay cards, and they're paying next to nothing. People line up to play them. And, you know, a lot of people play these bets. You know, the teasers, I'm not a big fan of not getting the money I should get. I hate the odds on those things, but, you know, I think they're viable in some cases. In parlays, you get the much higher payouts. What are your thoughts on betting these types of bets, JR?
Well, a lot of people a lot of people love the teasers. They love the parlay, and they also love the attraction, and they also love the action. Now, what happens is here, if I can go off on a tangent a little bit, I like to put myself on the other end of the spectrum. If I'm a sports book, if I'm a guy that takes bets or takes action, I want to give people that are foolish with their money the most amount of ways to play. If you play the straight bets and you play, obviously, you know, the over-unders, that's a small payout or a small risk, obviously, if you do your homework. But if you're a sports book and you have these people that love the action, they love to play the 1 o'clock, they love to play 4 o'clock, they need to play the 8 o'clock game, they need to play Monday Night Football. When you play the teasers, the parlays, the reverses, it puts the edge on their side of the field. Now, if you're a small bettor and you have some good research and you want to play a two-team parlay or maybe a teaser where you take the favorite down, I'm okay with that if you're a small bettor. The other thing is here, if I can go rambling a little bit about these teasers, is it doesn't show confidence in the work that you did with the side or the total. If you need to take a team and actually get 8, 7, 9 points, whatever they do for the teaser, that doesn't show that you did a lot of homework with that straight bettor. For me, I love to give the straight bet. I handicap off a power rating, and what I want to do is if I have a game I'm going to send in on, I am not going to worry about another team covering. I'm not going to worry about that parlay covering. I'm going to play it straight. So my discussion would be here is let's talk about playing the parlays and the teasers in a small amount, maybe almost recreational for $10, $15, $20. The $200, $300 bettors and the $500 bettors, stay away from them because they do their homework and they're solid with the sides and totals.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the parlays, the teasers, you know, I kind of find them fun occasionally. You can get a lot of bang for your buck. You know, you play 3 1 o'clock games. You got 3 games you're following at the same time. A lot of these games come down to the wire, so you have a lot of action for, you know, not a lot of investment there as opposed to playing 3 flat bets. You know, the most common margins of victory are 3, 7, and 10. You know, so I think that if you're going to tease and eat those odds, because I can't stand eating those odds, by the way, you have to do that with a teaser. You know, if you're going to do that, try and get through that number is one of the ways that people use teasers. You have a team that's favored by 8. you tease them down so they're only favored by 2. And I think you make a good point when you say, it's better to tease the good team down than the bad team up. We've all gotten killed, and we've all seen people get killed doing that. But I do like it for the smaller better, and I do like it. We talk about bullets in your gun. It's not a bad thing to maybe say to yourself, I can use this teaser as an extra advantage in addition to my couple of flat bets. Maybe I'm a $100 flat better. Maybe I'll throw a $25 teaser in on 3 of the games I really like, and this one I kind of like that's on at 8 o'clock at night or something for a little action.
Absolutely. And if I could emphasize a point here, because you made some great points there, I can really hardly even add anything. But what I'm trying to say is, if you're a serious bettor and you're doing this for a living, or you're doing this more than recreational, take the larger amount that you play, take the bigger amount of your bankroll, and play it on the solid sides and the solid totals. If you want to do a little recreational betting with a small percentage of your bankroll, maybe even $10, $15, $20, and try to hit a home run, that's great. But don't reverse it. Don't have the big bets as a parlay and teasers and the small bets as the side and totals. You need to stay winning, you need to stay confident, and you need to get some information. There's a lot of people out that are doing well because they do their homework and they get solid these sides. Don't get crazy here and get foolish with your money trying to hit a home run with a 3, 4, 5 team parlay, which maybe hits once in a while. You're going to get on the on the short end of the stick if you keep it like that.
Yeah, and it's really important for me when I'm looking at playing these kind of things, because I'll throw in a teaser occasionally. I'll throw in a parlay when there's a couple of games I like. I actually like playing baseball parlays, which makes me, I guess, an oddball. But if there's 3 games I like, a parlay in baseball can really pay nicely. But at the same time, I don't play them exclusively, and I don't play them for more than 3 teams ever. I know guys will want to put $5 on something that's going to pay, 800 to 1 and play, a 10-teamer. But, I don't think that that's a sound strategy. Maybe it's something that you just do for a little fun. These bets are out there, and a 3-team parlay paying 6 to 1, or, there's a couple of places that pay 6.5 to 1. That's a pretty sweet payout. And I do like it occasionally. And I do like to see the added action you can get without a lot of investment there.
Absolutely. I'm not shutting the door and telling people that they positively can't bet parlays or teasers. I'm just saying do it within moderation. If you have a nice bankroll from the weekend before, if you're playing with the house's money, that's fine. But to try to hit a home run and try to get out and try to get unstuck with a parlay and teaser, that's a recipe for disaster.
Dude, I got a friend of mine. He gets down to his last $5. He always plays a 3-teamer with his last $5. It's hilarious. and every once in a while he hits one, and then he's got action for like 2 days, before he finally loses. But it's just funny, seeing that little bit of action, turn into something that's kind of fun like that. It gives me a good smile, So I think that we've covered the subject very nicely for the listeners, and it's something out there that they need to look at. JR is going to pick a game. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about choosing sports books if you want to play this type of action. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, JR is going to redeem himself after a straight-up loser last week. I don't mean to bring that up and say the word straight-up loser, but, we tell it like it is right here at Cast Your Bets. Ain't that right, JR?
Absolutely. If you cannot be transparent and you cannot wear the emotions on your sleeve, I think it's better to do it a handicapper that lives and dies with this stuff, gets emotional here. You guys know, obviously, you pick my brain beforehand. If you come on here and, you shrug it off like there's no big deal and you just are screaming and shouting and you just tell people you win every day, obviously, there's 1 or 2 things going on. First of all, the guy's not telling the truth. And second of all, nobody wins every day. That's why they call it gambling. But if you let me allude to this week, I'm going to go 2 big powerhouse teams, and I'm going to play a nasty dog. And let me tell you, I'm going to Norman, Oklahoma, and the Oklahoma Sooners put up 59 last week against Oklahoma State. Everybody knows about Baker Mayfield, Heisman Trophy stock rising. But let me tell you, the college football playoff elimination game might be round 1 right here as a Big 12 title game here. TCU, Oklahoma, and TCU. That's right, the same TCU that I laid an egg with. Obviously, I told TCU was not going to play Iowa State tough. But you know what? TCU is catching 6.5 or 7 against Oklahoma. And let me tell you, the listeners need to hear this loud and clear. Oklahoma cannot play defense. It looks like a 7-on-7 flag football team out there as they let 52 up against Oklahoma State. Now, yes, Baker Mayfield can get it done. Unfortunately, Baker Mayfield is going to go against TCU, which plays some defense. They have only allowed 7 points per game. That's right. 7 points per game the last 4, and they handled a Texas team last week. They smashed them pretty well. How about stats and trends? Horned Frogs, 10-4 last 14 as a dog. And basically, TCU does not turn the ball over. They play defense. And Oklahoma is going to have the gas pedal all the way to the floor. They're going to try to play and put up 50. They're not going to put up 50. TCU, Oklahoma is an overlay. I got TCU covering the 6.5 or 7. I'm going to play the Horned Frogs in a nasty dog roll. Baker Mayfield maybe win the Heisman, but he's certainly not going to cover the spread. I'm taking TCU as my college play.
That's a sweet play. TCU can play some D. Coach there, he's been there for an awful long time. Was that Gary Patterson? He's been there a long time. He's been calling their D for years and years and years, and he always seems to do well against Oklahoma. So, the total on this game is at 62. Each one of these teams can score that many points. So I think we're going to see a little bit less scoring, and I think that probably ends up favoring TCU.
I would not hesitate standing in front of Oklahoma because people think, you know what, JR, you're crazy. But you know what? Oklahoma put up 59 against Oklahoma State. Those two teams cannot play defense. 1,400 yards. Baker Mayfield gets the job done. He goes for 7 touchdowns. He's the second coming of Joe Montana. But you know what? They're going to play a team that plays rock-solid, clamp-down defense. TCU gave up 7 points per game the last 4. That's right, 7 points per game allowed the last 4 games. That's pretty rootin' tootin' good, obviously, in that Big 12 conference. And, yeah, they might have played a cupcake in there or not. And they played, obviously, Iowa State at home. Iowa State scores 14. But let me tell you, TCU can play defense. I like teams that play defense. Don't give me Oklahoma to cover that number. They're going to play flat-out offense, but their defense is going to get shredded. This is going to be a close game. I like TCU to stay within the 7 as my big play.
That's fantastic, man. So for those keeping score at home, for those getting ready to click the button at their favorite online sportsbook, that is TCU covering the 7. Right now, it looks like most of the offshore guys are at 6.5, but a bunch of the Vegas guys are at 7. So that'll probably end up being a 7. I'm going to call it TCU plus 7, JR.
Like I said, I'm hanging my hat on defense. Offense puts people in the stands. Defense covers the spread. I'm telling you that right now. Offense puts the stands full of fans, and defense covers a number.
Dude, you said that a couple of weeks ago, and it worked out then. So I'm going to hang it at TCU with you. I love that play. I think that the listeners are going to get a fat winner there. And we'll be right back after this word from OSGA.
The offshore betting industry is totally unregulated.
Where can you turn to make sure your money is safe offshore?
The Offshore Gaming Association, OSGA. Visit the Offshore Gaming Association at www.osga.com or call them toll-free 7 days a week at 877-OSGA-BET. That's 877-674-2238. Established in 1998, the OSGA has been the ultimate watchdog for the unregulated offshore betting industry. They have helped thousands of players find secure, reputable offshore wagering outlets and perform dispute resolution for hundreds of wronged players. Visit the Offshore Gaming Association at www.osga.com or call them toll-free at 877-OSGA-BET.
Folks, welcome back to Cast Your Bets. We try to teach you a little bit about where to play. I'm going to talk about some sports books in a second. And we get some free plays from J.R. O'Donnell, who you can find over at pregame.com. You can find Cast Your Bets out there on iTunes, on YouTube, Blueberry, which is a popular site for podcasts if you're not on there. Of course, over at the OSGA.com site where you can always reach out to me as well. We always try to bring you a little bit about what's going on in the sportsbook world. And I wanted to talk, we spoke before the break about parlays and teasers. And one of the things we've talked about before on the podcast is about shopping lines. Well, if you're looking for particular types of bets, you can also shop the sports books for those. You can go out there and you can find a book that's going to have a little bit better parlay payouts. You're going to be able to find a book that has a little less juice on their teasers if you do a little tiny bit of shopping. One of the places that we like for teasers is an outfit called BetMania. Normally you're paying $110 or more for a 2-team 6-point teaser. And at BetMania, you're paying minus 105 for that. There's 6.5 points, 115, which is a really sweet deal too. And their 7 is minus 120. And that's something that if you're a teaser player, you want to go out and you want to look for a book you can play teasers at. You also want to do that with parlays. 5 dimes is terrific for parlays. You can parlay anything. JR, you could parlay a golf match at your golf course with a snooker match in Australia at 5 times. I'm pretty sure. So, if you're a parlay player, you want to look for that kind of stuff, right? And then there's an outfit called Payoffs Plus, and they do a little mix of both. Their parlay payout on a 2-teamer is 14-5. Everybody else does 13-5. They do 14-5 on a 2-teamer. They're giving you minus 110 juice on a 2-team, 6-teamer. Play teasers with. So, I think if the listeners need to understand that not only do you want to have a couple of books to play at to shop lines, but you also want to have a couple of books to play at because, we just talked before the break, JR. You want to do your flat betting, and then you also want to, if you want to throw in some teasers and parlays. For me, it's not a bad idea to have a spot where you're doing your flat betting, where you're doing the majority of your betting, where the majority of your money is, and then you have an account that maybe you have some fun in where you're doing some teasers and parlays. What are your thoughts there?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. I would get the rock-solid best line, as you never want to let the guy get the best of you with the thing, but I would get the rock-solid best lines at the established sports book for your side and totals. And if you want to go to some of them ones, which is a great idea, if you're going to play the parlays and teasers, get the best payout, obviously. You know the ones that are out there. This is your business, is right up your alley. Let's go solid and strong with the sides and totals. And if you want to play around with the parlays and teasers, get the best action. And listen, the best way to beat these guys is to get the edge. And obviously you're getting the edge listening to you with what's going on there. And
that little bit of extra stuff you're getting with a little bit higher payout there, or you're playing at a place that maybe you're getting free payouts at where you're doing your flat betting, that really adds up for the serious bettor over the course of a season. So, certainly something to look at. The listeners out there can certainly head over to OSGA.com. We have some breakdowns of teasers and parlays, and on many of the pages inside, when you dig deep, you can actually see what they're paying out on that. And members get that stuff. If somebody wants to become a member over there at OSGA.com, keeps us in business, we'd love to have you. J.R.O. Donald. It's time. It's time for an NFL pick. I was a little disappointed Atlanta got beat by Carolina last week. I saw Carolina's numbers moving this week, and I'm like, we talked about Carolina. Like, I would have fade Carolina, and they end up winning. And I'm just like, oh, come on.
I know. Carolina played better. Hey, that's why, what I want to do is here, and I'll give the listeners, obviously, I tell people over and over, forget about the week before. You have to have a bad memory. You have to have a short memory. In the NFL, the teams obviously is bad. They don't present themselves to be as bad the next week, and they obviously don't present themselves to be as good next week. And obviously, the Atlanta Falcons, they went into the New York Jets in terrible weather, and I thought the offensive coordinator and Matty Ice were going to be on the same page. But obviously, there's some trouble there, and it's amazing how a guy with all that talent just can't get on the right side with Sarkisian as his offensive coordinator. And they struggled against the Carolina Ball Club, who is a mediocre Carolina Ball Club.
It's unbelievable to me. I guess I never really thought that much about it, but how much the offensive coordinator matters to these quarterbacks that are, kind of elite kind of quarterbacks. I think Wentz is probably, doing great because of the coaching he's getting. And obviously Goff over in the Rams, these kids are lighting it up, and they can't be doing it on their own. And then you got Matty Ice, who can't seem to, get out of his own way with this offense. So, I think Atlanta might be one of these teams that we were talking about last week, teams to fade. Maybe Atlanta's a team to kind of look at with a little bit of a crooked eye.
Yeah, it's going to be a long time coming before I take Atlanta and ask them to do good things for me. I'm not playing them with
True that.
It's going to be a long time. So if you want me to get into my NFL pick, I'm raring to go here. I got my notes. I'm all over the place. Let's roll right this week because I'm going to play Buffalo Bills playing the New Orleans Saints. And let me tell you about New Orleans. They're on the road laying 3, but the New Orleans Saints have won 6 straight, 5-1 against the spread, and they want to stay atop the NFC South. Let me tell you, there's a short price against Buffalo, who obviously is a cover machine. We talked about it last week, 5-1-1 against the spread. But let me tell you about Buffalo. They cannot hold on to the ball. They lost 3 fumbles, and they got smashed by the New York Jets 34-21 on Thursday night. If you look back there, Buffalo was everybody's darling, and the Jets, who aren't as bad as people want to think they are, put up 34 against them. Now, let me tell you, Drew Brees, I really like the way Drew Brees plays. He has a solid head, and he's got 2 guys that can run the ball. Melvin Ingram and Alvin Kamara put up 152 yards last week, and basically they smashed the Tampa Bay team. And all of a sudden, the Saints are starting to play a little defense. I never thought I'd say that, but the Saints are playing defense, and they got Marshawn Lattimore, who's a good cover, and that's going to make the Bills' offense very troublesome because let me tell you, Tyrod Taylor, for as good as he is, does not have a true downfield threat. I think New Orleans -3 is the play here. I think Buffalo is a little paper tiger. And I'm going to play Drew Brees -3 or 3.5. I think they run the ball. I think they do a lot of things well. And I'm not in love with Buffalo. I'm going to play the Saints minus the points as my NFL play.
Well, you talk a little bit about downfield threat. I think this is the game Kelvin Benjamin's supposed to start for them, which I guess maybe that's a downfield threat there. The Saints also, they haven't given up more than 17 points in any of the games they've won this year, which is pretty amazing. It seems like you got a nice play here, but I want to throw something at you that's like a little side play. You might want to, the listeners out there might be like, hey, I want a little side action on JR's action from, OSGA Jim. He doesn't win a lot, but occasionally he's got a little side play. The Bills have only scored a total of 6 points in the first quarter of their first 8 games.
Wow.
So you look at that and you say to yourself, all right, the odds makers are going to know that, but still, it's hard to not look at a first quarter or first half line in this game.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on. It's right there.
Yeah, wow. So New Orleans maybe might be the play, obviously, in the first half to get off and get all over Buffalo because, if you have a small sample size of 2 or 3, I would maybe discount that. But if it's 8 games where they only scored that many in the first quarter, that's a pretty strong trend.
Yeah, and I like your play a lot here. I mean, I was a little disturbed by the fact that, Benjamin's going to start. They got their tight end back. He's supposed to start too, I think. But then I saw that their passing game is 30th in the NFL. There's only 32 teams, right?
Yeah, exactly. I know. So, I've been looking at all that. It's tough to lay points on the road, and people are going to say laying points on the road in the NFL is a disaster. But if you play spots, I don't mind laying points on the road here. If you play spots, it's a good game and a good bet. And I'm not playing against a team that can't play. I'm playing a team that won 6 straight. They're confident, 5-1 against the spread. And Drew Brees, say what you want about him, but he's a future Hall of Famer.
You're not worried about the weather at all?
No. I'm not worried about the weather.
All right. Okay.
I would love to tell you that, but I got sucked into that San Francisco 49er, Philadelphia Eagles game weather, and the weatherman got me. It wasn't as bad, and obviously I'm looking at torrential downpours and 1,000-mile-an-hour winds and everything else, and it ended up Philadelphia just, which is that good, and we talked about it. They hung up a lot of points against San Francisco, and I'm not worried about New Orleans there because they can run the ball. If they were a one-headed object here with only the passing attack, but they got 2 guys that can run the ball, and that's going to stuff the ball right down the Buffalo Bills' throat.
Yeah, and I believe back in week 1 of the podcast, we doodle-doo back to week 1. I'm thinking, I believe you brought up about Ingram way back then because we were talking about, they had one too many backs there. They got rid of Peterson. But I believe you brought Ingram up way back then.
Yeah, I talked about Ingram. He's kind of under the radar guy, and basically he can run the ball. And Alvin Kamara is another guy that can run the ball. They got 2 guys that usually can run the ball. Now, New Orleans Saints never, ever was any type of attack on the offense with the running the game. It was all Drew Brees. But now these guys obviously can play a little bit on the offense with the rush. And let me tell you about their defense. They're not as bad on defense. They're not a shredded defense like people used to make them out for being. Buffalo just has trouble scoring. Obviously, they play a little good defense. And Tyrod Taylor's tough, but I'm going to lay points on the road, and I'm confident with this one.
So for those getting ready to click that button, you just clicked for the last one. You just clicked for TCU. And now you're clicking for the New Orleans Saints -3 at Buffalo. This game opened at 2.5 in Vegas, went up to 3. I think it's probably going to stay right around 3. You're probably paying a little juice, -3, -120, something like that. But that's a solid play, JR, and I'm glad you brought the New Orleans Saints into the mix because I think it's time to start betting on teams that are going to at least win the game. And I think the Saints are going to at least win this game. -3 doesn't seem like a lot to give there.
No, absolutely not. You want to ask a good team to do good things for you. And now from week 9, week 10, all the way on, we talked about it. The lines are sharp. You need to play good teams in good spots. You need to stay away from the teams that just can't cover the number.
Yeah, exactly. Or the teams that are pretending at this point, because there's a few of them out there too, and I think the Bills are probably one of them. So that's taking the New Orleans Saints -3. Fantastic, JR. Each week I try to bring a little bit to the table that comes out of our email boxes or that I see on Twitter or that somebody hits our chat with. And I saw a couple of people on Twitter after some of those bad beats over the weekend who were saying the games are fixed. The games aren't fixed. I mean, I just don't know what to tell you. The games aren't fixed. Bad beats, I mean, one of the things about bad beats, JR, is I think, tell me if I'm wrong, for every bad beat, there's one that you win that somebody else got a bad beat on. Am I right there?
I say that all the time. For every shoulda, coulda, woulda game where you get, stuck at the last when you have that team and you have the underdog and the under, and next thing you know, the favorite and the over goes. For every one of them games where you get stuck and you cap the right side with the wrong result, you'll have one that comes back in your favor. So believe me, if you're a handicapper that dwells on the shoulda, coulda, woulda, you're never going to get out from under that, because for every one of those games that I got stuck, I can give you another game where I had the flat out wrong side with the right result by a fluke play or right thing at the end. So, like I said, handicappers have been doing this a long time. It all evens out, my friend. You're absolutely right. It all evens out.
Yeah, I mean, the games aren't fixed. People out here they're thinking somehow the man is sticking it to them. It's just not true. We had another one come in that I was amazed with, that the sportsbook changed my bet. The sportsbook's not changing your bet. The sportsbook's taking thousands of bets. They're not going in. They're not changing your bet. The bottom line, and the reason I bring this up is, you need to take some accountability. We talked at the beginning of the show and throughout the show that you had a bad week last week, JR. You're accountable for that. I myself did not have much success either, although I got that side play this week, right? But you got to take accountability, and saying that the game is fixed or saying that the sportsbook changed your bet. I mean, it's almost not healthy. And players need to realize you're just taking it, you're placing a bet. The outcome is what it is, and that's why they call it gambling. Right on?
Absolutely. The games are not fixed. If they were fixed, we would have known about it way by now. With the amount of technology and all the investigations and everything else, there's no way that the people that are fixing the games would keep quiet, because, like you said, this is 2017. Technology's out there. If they were fixed, obviously, we would know about it by now. And the other thing is, for anybody to say that the game was fixed if they got a bad beat, obviously, let's see when they start chirping, when they know they're flat out on the wrong side of the game and something happens in their favor.
Right, that's the one where they tell their friends they knew that one was winning from the very outset. I know they were down 27-7, but you know what? I knew they were winning. Well, look, folks, that brings us to the end of the Week 10 podcast here. We want to thank you an awful lot for listening. J.R. O'Donnell over there at pregame.com. He'll have a bunch of stuff up for you this weekend. Probably got a couple of plays up right now, including the 2 free winners that he gave out on today's show. You can always find me, Jim, over at OSGA.com. And you can find the Cast Your Bets podcast every week out on iTunes. You can sign up on Blueberry. You can go to YouTube. You can find it over on the OSGA site. And we hope that you keep listening to us, you take some advice here from what we talked about today, and you find some winners this weekend. Good luck to everybody out there.
You've been listening to Cast Your Bets, the Offshore Gaming Association podcast. Check in each week for more inside the sports gaming world. And don't forget to check us out on your favorite social media site and on our YouTube channel at OSGA Sports Betting. Thanks for listening.